going to be looking at the story of Cain and Abel today. So if you have not read Genesis chapter 4 verses 1 through 16 to prep for this, go on and pause the video right now and we'll wait for you till you come back. Welcome back. You know, the story of Cain and Abel is a story of firsts. It's the first time in the Bible where it talks about a couple knowing each other. It's the first time that there's a childbirth. It's the first time we see humanity giving an offering to God. It's the first time that God refuses an offering as being unworthy. It's the first lie. It's the first anger between two people. It's the first violence between two people. It is the first mention of the word sin in the entire Bible. That's a lot of firsts. So I think this story was meant to grab our attention. It contains all of the elements which we face as humans in this world. It contains jealousy, rejection, sadness, anger, resentment, deception, chastising, unheeded advice, even rage and cover-up. And it's also the first time we have a conflict between two humans where there is a clear-cut good guy and a very clear-cut bad guy. So I'd like to take our focus today and put it on Abel for just a little while, the good guy in this story. Now, we don't know how old Abel was when Cain killed him. He could have been 25 years old. He might have been 55 for that matter. We don't know. But we do know this. By the time they were old enough to make offerings to God, Abel was a shepherd. We don't know for certain what he shepherded. The word used there could mean a flock of sheep or a flock of goats. But we do know that more than one translation goes ahead and takes the liberty to say that Abel had sheep. So we'll go with that. Regardless, we know that he picked the very first from his flock. Now, whether that meant it was the firstborn or it was the healthiest, I'm really not sure. But the point is this: it was what God wanted. Adam and Eve must have related the story of God killing an animal to cover their newly discovered nakedness back in chapter 3. And the fact that something had to shed its blood to cover sins could not have been totally missed by their sons. So maybe that's what made the offering of Abel pleasing to God, the death of an animal. Or maybe the thing that was acceptable to God was that it was from the firstlings of the flock and their fat portions. So it was the firstborn, and it was the best fat portions, and it was maybe more than one. We don't know if it was every single firstborn. We don't know if it was all of the firstborn males. We don't know if it was each firstborn spotless male, or even if he just decided that it was just going to be the best 2 or 3. We only know that it was better than Cain's offering of produce from the ground. Now, God did not accept Cain's sacrifice. To say this made Cain angry would be a huge understatement. Even though God offered some excellent advice to Cain about doing good resulting in happiness and not doing good bringing temptation to sin, Cain just could not let it go. Of course, the Creator knew what had happened, and he questioned Cain about it. Let's go on ahead and look in Scripture, Genesis chapter 4, starting in verse 8. Now Cain said to his brother, "Let's go out to the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where's your brother?" "I don't know," he replied. "Am I my brother's keeper?" That is a very famous response from Cain. Am I my brother's keeper? That's what he offered back to God. And then this exclamation was given that many of us have forgotten is even in the Bible. It's very important. So let's look at it. Genesis chapter 4, verse 10. The Lord said, "What have you done?" "Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." Wow. The innocent blood itself was crying out to God. Well, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with this series of videos regarding Christ in the Old Testament? In short, it has everything to do with this series of videos. Let's look. Here is what made Abel special. Number one, Abel was a shepherd. Number two, Abel presented the firstlings of his flock. Number three, Abel offered a sheep, a lamb, an acceptable sacrifice, the best he had. Number four, although his own kin hated him, Abel had done nothing wrong. Number five, Abel was preyed upon through deception. Cain deceived him into going back out in the field. Number six, Abel was killed by his brother. Number seven, righteous Abel was the victim of a violent death. Number eight, Abel's sacrifice was better than his brother's sacrifice. But there's someone else in this story, someone who isn't mentioned by name, someone whose life was eerily parallel to Abel's life. Here are the similarities between Abel and this someone else in the story. Number one, this someone else called himself the Good Shepherd. Number two, this someone else was the only firstborn. Number three, this someone else actually was the perfect sacrificial lamb. Number four, this someone else's community hated him, even though he had done nothing wrong. Number five, this someone else also was preyed upon through deception. Number six, this someone else was killed by his Jewish brothers. Number seven, this someone else also was the righteous victim of a violent death. Number eight, this someone else's sacrifice was also better. It was better than any sacrifice ever offered before or since. That is a lot of similarities, but it isn't all of the similarities. I would be amiss if I didn't point to the biggest difference between Abel's blood and the blood of this someone else in the story. Abel's innocent blood, the blood that was shed to the ground, cried out to God, and it resulted in vengeance on his killer so that he was cursed. Cain was cursed. Now, what about this someone else's innocent blood? Well, when it was being shed, this someone else, he cried out to God personally. It wasn't his blood that cried out. He cried out personally, not for vengeance. He cried out for God to forgive his killers. That's awesome. And that is the focus of these lessons, because that's Jesus. Thank you for listening in on today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. If you can, I would really like it if you gave me a thumbs up, subscribed, left a comment, rang the bell so that you will get notified of the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're a blessing to me. Thank you. Have a great day and be blessed.